Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I need to trim down a lot of the books on my TBR that have been on here for over a year, maybe even 2, maybe even 3. So I'm going to choose 5 books that are on my TBR that are on the chopping block. I'm going to try a chapter of each of these books, and then I'm going to determine if I'm going to keep the book and potentially attempt to read it next month, or I'm going to unhaul it. All right. With that said, let's get into it. So some of these books are really new, but there are some on here that have been on here forever. So I'm just going to pull out the contenders, starting with Empire the Vampire by J. Kristoff. This has been on here, I think, since 2021, I believe. I heard about this book from Books of Brittany, but because it's such a chunker, I have no idea if I'm ever going to actually read it. Another book that I'm going to put on the chopping block is The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. Now, this book comes highly recommended by Elliot Brooks. I think it's one of her favorite series, but for me, I've tried to start it 3 times, and each time I've temporarily DNF'd it and put it back on my TBR because I just wasn't feeling it. What else? Another book on the chopping block, The Guinevere Deception by Kiersten White. I forgot why I got that book. I forgot who recommended it, but it's been on my TBR for so long, I think since 2020. And I've tried to start it, but it didn't hook me. So I'm going to give it one more chance, reread the first chapter, and really decide. So I've got 3 books so far on my fantasy shelf. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Now, I love the Sherlock Holmes movies and the TV show. But when I tried to read this book a couple years ago, it was a little too dense for me. The descriptions, I mean, it was written so long ago, and I feel like the writing style was just turning me off. So I'm gonna give it one more try. And if I don't like it, I'm just gonna get rid of it. And the last book, let's see, what should I choose? And the last book I'm gonna add on here, Imaginary Friend by Chbosky. Now, I got this book, I think well over a year ago, because it was the same author. Actually, not even that. I heard it was pretty interesting, and I think I saw it on sale, maybe like on Barnes and Noble or maybe Book Outlet. I'm not too sure, but I purchased it, and it is a chunker also, and I've never even started it in the well over a year that it's been on my TBR shelf. These are the 5 books that I'm going to give one shot. I'm gonna try one chapter of each of them and decide whether I'm going to keep them and actually read it, or if I'm going to unhaul them. So I finished the first chapter of The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. I actually gave it more than a chapter because I read the prologue and then I read the first chapter. And basically what I got from this is that there's this magical race of beings called Eborans. They kind of sound like fae or elves maybe. And they worship this ancient tree which also kind of provides their life force. 200 years in the past, their tree dies. So they resort to spilling human blood in order to survive or to try and bring their tree back to life, and it doesn't work. Skip forward 150 years to 50 years in the past. There are these siblings of elves. The brother of the elf or fae or Eboran who tried to bring the tree back to life, the brother ends up, I guess, leaving their ancient city to try and live the rest of his life as much as he can because his race is slowly dying from this plague due to their tree dying. And I guess his sister is really upset with him for basically what she sees as abandoning her people, abandoning hope, and abandoning his responsibility to help their people. And I don't know, we only follow him in like the first couple days of his journey where he encounters this human, and we see that humans do not get along with the Eborans at this point. I imagine it's because of the whole killing them and spilling their blood thing. I didn't get too far into it, and honestly, I don't think the writing style is doing it for me. It's very, I don't know, for me it feels very classic, traditional classic fantasy, which I'm not really into. I don't know, after this first chapter, I don't know if I'll be continuing on with the series. I might DNF this one. DNF and Unhaul. Oh, and on to the next one. I'm not too sure which one I'm going to read next. Maybe a non-fantasy. I might do Sherlock Holmes. We'll see. I decided to actually read Imaginary Friend by Chbosky, and I don't know why I decided to read it. I guess I wanted to get into a horror because it's been a while. So yeah, I'm gonna read the first chapter of this and we'll see how it goes. So I actually just read the prologue and the first chapter again. It wasn't too long. It was only like, how many pages is this? 12 pages. It was actually pretty good. So the prologue followed a different child. So the prologue follows a different child from the first chapter, and the prologue was showing this child like I guess escaping out his window and running through the streets of his neighborhood, and he's either running from something or running towards something in order to protect his family and his neighborhood. We're not too sure what he's scared of, but he seems to be like seeing things, like seeing figures in the dark and hearing things coming from yards and everything, and we don't really know what's going on. Like, is it actually happening, or is the child just hallucinating? Like, what's going on? And we don't even know what happens to him at the end. I'm guessing we're probably going to figure that out as the book goes on. Oh, 50 years. So the prologue takes place 50 years before the main story. So there's that, and then the main story is following this 7-year-old boy and his mom who are driving to a different state because they're on the run from the mother's abusive boyfriend. It's kind of heartbreaking because we're seeing this from the little boy's point of view, and how he, even though he's so young, he still kind of knows what's going on, and he has a strong desire to want to protect his mom even though he's so small. And it's just heartbreaking to see like a child be aware of these things at such a young age when they should still have their innocence from that. That kind of kept me interested. That was definitely something gripping that I think I might actually want to continue reading this book. So if anything, this book might be one that will survive the chopping block. Now I've got 3 more to go. I'm not too sure which one I want to go with. I think I might go with Empire of the Vampire. I read almost 25 pages. I kind of overdid it a little with the Guinevere deception. Anyway, I tried a chapter for the Guinevere deception by Kiersten White. It did not go well. There was basically like nothing really happened in the beginning. Like, okay, no, I lied. In the beginning, the main character is traveling from, I guess, her home to Camelot so that she can marry Arthur. And wait, was that in the first chapter that she actually met him though? Wait. Oh, okay, and the first chapter ends right when she arrives in Camelot. The first chapter was pretty boring, to be quite honest. There was a lot of names. There was some dialogue. There was stuff that happened, but nothing that really stood out. The writing style was very simple, but it felt like it was trying to be more descriptive and metaphorical in my opinion. It didn't capture me, basically. I didn't enjoy the main character's voice. So I don't know. I wanted to get into this because I love I thought that I would love the medieval setting and that it would feel very like old school magical, you know, Merlin style, but I didn't like it at all, this first chapter. Nothing is making me want to continue. So unfortunately, I think it's time that I let this one go. Man, I remember a time when I really thought I was gonna enjoy this one. It's a bit disappointing. Like, this is why I hang on to a lot of books for so long, is I really don't want to waste money buying books, but this thing has been on my TBR for so long. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but yes, 25 pages done in this, not worth it in my opinion. I've got a lot more other books to read, so that's it for now. I still have 2 more books left. I'm either going to do Sherlock Holmes or Empire of the Vampire. In all honesty, I'm probably gonna do Empire of the Vampire. I am thirsty for an interesting sounding fantasy book. Wish me luck. So last month, I actually got 2 new shelves from a bookstore near me that actually closed down. So you can see the 2 shelves I had before, and these are the 2 new ones that I got from, okay, they're not new, they're new to me is what I meant. You can see they're pretty huge. These are like the regular, like the standard large bookcase from IKEA, the Billy bookcase. So these 2 are a lot bigger. I actually had to like sand and paint them because I wanted it to, you know, match as much as possible. I'll probably just insert some footage also of the process, and I'm really excited. I've been letting them like dry for well over a month now, going on a month, because I really want to make sure they're very dry before I put any of my precious books on them. And yeah, because they're so big and had to take up the biggest wall in this room, I had to do a lot of moving things around. I'll probably show some footage of that too. Yeah, I had to move things around. My reading nook is now centered between my bookcases. I moved my desk over here. I've actually been thinking of like backlighting these shelves because there's actually a space back here. So I'm thinking if I like put a strip, it would look really nice, but that will be a bit of an investment that I'm not prioritizing right now. Well, I just finished the first chapter in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I think I bought this book on a whim because it was so cheap on Book Outlet, and just like those other books, it's been on my shelf for such a long time. And I've tried to read it once before and I didn't get past the first chapter. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the story or if you've watched the TV show. I just kept thinking about that that British TV show starring Benedict Cumberbatch while I was reading this, and the first chapter is the intro to a scandal in, I think it's Bohemia, but it's called something else on the TV show, and it just had me thinking about that scene, and I guess that's what kept me at least somewhat attentive to the storyline. But I gotta say, even if the storyline is really great, this old writing style, the way Sir Arthur Conan Doyle writes back then, is just very distracting to me. It's not my cup of tea. It keeps me from enjoying the plot, and also at times can be a little confusing with the word choice. Like, for example, let's see if I can find a line in here that, for example, hence you see my double deduction that you had been out in vile weather and that you're a particularly malignant boot-sitting specimen of the London slavey, As to your practice, if a gentleman walks into my room smelling of iodoform, with a black mark of nitrate of silver upon his right forefoot, okay, that's actually fine because you kind of expect Sherlock Holmes to talk like that, but the descriptions though, like, his dress was rich with the richness which would, in England, be looked upon as akin to bad taste. I get what it's saying. It's just using not commonly used words, and the old school writing is just distracting, and I don't know, like, part of me really wants to give it a try, like give it a solid try, but am I gonna enjoy myself while I'm reading this? I'm not confident that I will. I may change my mind, but I'm leaning towards unhauling this one. Now I'm on to my last one. After this, the last thing I have to read, the first chapter of is Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I've only read the Illuminate Files by J. Kristoff, and this looks like a much different beast than that one. But I do gotta say, I'm interested in this because there's illustrations in here. Like, look at this. You know, it's huge. It is over, oh my God, how big is this book? It's over 700 pages, and it definitely feels like it's more than 700 pages. I haven't even tried to start this book. I think the size has just always turned me off, but I bought it. I think I bought this because I saw Books of Brittany reading this, and I know she's a big J. Kristoff fan, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm gonna give the first chapter a shot. Let's see how it goes. I read the first chapter for Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff, and I am so surprised to say that I actually liked it. So just like a few of the others, there was a prologue and then there's the first chapter, and that was about 26 pages. And I gotta say, the writing is, it's a bit extra, you know. I'm not one to care for the extra descriptive, trying to have like a certain, how do you say it? J. Kristoff was going for a certain kind of prose, like this gothic, dark, beautiful prose, I would try and say. He was trying to go for a certain tone. When you think of vampires and you think of the tone that they speak in or the times they would live in, just that's how he was trying to write. And at first I found it really annoying. I mean, by the time the prologue was over, I was pretty bored. So I took a break and then I started the first chapter. And I gotta say that it won me over in that first chapter. It's basically about this man. He's the last of the, what is it called? Silver Saints, which I believe are vampire hunters. And he lives in this world that has been taken over by vampires. So humans are losing this war. And he's living in a world where it's been years since the sun has come up. They're living in eternal darkness. And this man is in his 30s and he's been captured by vampires. He's being interviewed by a vampire who is trying to get him to tell his life story, how he got there, where he was born, and how he became this fearsome vampire hunter who grew his name so that even immortal monsters have come to fear him. And I gotta say, I think I'm going to keep this. I really, the writing started to really paint a picture of the story I was reading. And it also helped that there was illustrations in here. So I've only come across two. There's the map that I showed earlier, I think. And then here's the illustration of the main character. His name is Gabriel. I'm loving the tone. I'm enjoying reading from the main character's perspective. And I kind of like the fact that it's not just him telling his story right off the bat. He's being interviewed, so it's like a conversation between him and the vampire. I've never watched Interview with a Vampire. I wonder if that's how it is, but Anyway, I'm interested to see how this story plays out, because in the first chapter, he's really just talking about his parents and how he was born. It's interesting. I want to see how he became a vampire hunter, because it doesn't seem like he was born into it. Like, his parents weren't vampire hunters. He didn't come from this strict vampire hunting clan like I was expecting. I'm keeping the 700-paged tome, and it is going to get a second chance at life in my library. Besides that, I guess this is the last book, so I should probably do a wrap up. Let me grab the rest. One second. Let's summarize these reads. So just as a recap, oh my gosh, how am I gonna stack all of these? Some of them are huge. I was meant to read these 5 books, which have been on my shelves for a long time. I probably should have DNF'd some of them a long time ago, but I've never wanted to just unhaul a book without giving it a shot. You know, I wanted to at least try and read it. So I wanted to make space on my TBR shelf. So I picked these 5 books to finally give a shot and see if they're worth keeping on there for a complete reading at a later time. So in summary, let's start with the Ninth Reign. I've ultimately decided not to keep this one, so this will be unhauled. Then I read the first chapter of Imaginary Friend. This I liked. It interested me enough that I'm going to keep this one. The Guinevere Deception, gave it a little more than 1 chapter and I still didn't care for it. Did not interest me enough. So I'm going to be unhauling this one. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Even as I'm picking this up, I'm still not too sure what I'm going to do. Honestly, I think I'm gonna keep this one for a little bit longer. That might be a mistake, but you know, this is such a nice book anyway. I love the cover and everything. And I love the Sherlock Holmes story. It's just I gotta get past the writing. So I'm gonna keep this for a little longer. And then lastly, Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I really enjoyed the first, I didn't enjoy the prologue, really enjoyed the first chapter. So I'm going to be keeping this and giving it a full shot. And that's it, guys. So out of those 5 books, I'll be unhauling 2 and keeping 3 of them. I mean, it's not a crazy unhaul, but it's progress, right? Hopefully I can be more selective with my book buying in the future, where I won't have to like unhaul a book after just reading 1 chapter. Hopefully I can do more research and I can actually get through a whole book before deciding whether I'm going to keep it or not. And that's something I definitely do with my shelves. I don't like keeping books that I didn't like, or that I'm not interested in, or that I wouldn't recommend to others. So I definitely want to keep these shelves as holding like at least 3 stars, but mostly 4 stars and above on my shelves. And that's it, guys. This is my first Try a Chapter reading vlog. I hope it was interesting enough for you guys. I'd really love to hear your thoughts about whether you think I should, you know, give one of these 2 books another shot, or what you guys think of any of these books that I talked about in this vlog. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.